Hey, welcome to another episode of This Life in Tech. I think this is 156. I'm Jason.
The bad guy. Hey, and you guy that didn't vote for Derek Jeter to Hall of Fame. Own it.
And I'm TK.
See what I mean, dude? It didn't even take 2 seconds. I should just default to it.
Well, hey, if someone's going to be out there, I don't care that Derek Jeter wasn't unanimous, but come on. You got to, if you're going to not vote for the guy, at least, own it and put it out there. Be like, look, here's the reason why I don't think he's in the Hall of Fame.
I thought they had to publish I thought we had to know who voted for whom. I thought Mariano Rivera should have, I thought there was a couple of other dudes I thought should be unanimous, but he was a great first test case to last year, having to get that out in public. Get the guy out there.
So the Baseball Writers Association had voted, but the Hall of Fame declined. So they didn't hold him to it. So
I think the biggest problem with the Baseball Hall of Fame is the Baseball Writers of America.
Yeah.
I mean, up until what, 5 years ago, maybe even less than that, you had to be at a print newspaper to be considered that. They didn't even want guys that were on the internet. So basically everybody from MLB Network, ESPN, they had to go find a newspaper to be affiliated with. Or you could, hey, let's run it back to the 1920s. It's the same argument. If we hear these old guys, like if Babe Ruth didn't get in, are you?
Well, that's the thing for me. The whole Baseball Hall of Fame's not legitimate until Pete Rose is in there. Until then, I don't even want to hear about it.
I have a friend of mine who's a little bit older than me. He'll say it's not legitimate until Shoeless Joe Jackson gets in.
Yeah, so that's where I was going up.
That's where people start. I think that's the start, because that's the first time where you had a heavy-handed commissioner make a blanket law and the morality police came out. And these, by the way, in that day, these are the same people that voted for Ty Cobb to get in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Yeah. And now,
sports.
What's that?
Go ahead. I was just going to say,
when they don't want to vote a guy
amazing.
when they don't want to vote a guy like Schilling in because of his politics, or he's, and they, one of the radio shows that they say that, there's a Rick scale instead of the other piece of it. And he's high on the Rick scale. Well, now we're not voting people in because we don't like them.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Sports commissions are amazingly corrupt. If you want to study like the corruption in human groups, go study sports commissions.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, you got to discipline the people that employ you.
Kurt Schilling is a player that's kind of like on the cusp, like Dale Murphy, not like a top 25 in any category. But he became famous because of the bloody sock.
He became famous because he's 11-2 in the playoffs with a 2.0 something ERA. Right? It's the argument of, show up in the middle. It's going to be the argument when Eli Manning finally gets in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's a 500 quarterback who, when he made the playoffs, which wasn't that often, when they made the playoffs, killed it.
Well, it's Don Larson.
Yeah,
had a horrible regular season record. Like this guy was not a good pitcher. He had one good day, which is the only person to ever throw a perfect game in a World Series.
Yeah, that's a good day. That's a good Indian name, right? Guy that threw a perfect game in the World Series, a great Indian name. Dude that can't find home plate, Clayton Kershaw. Dude that can't find home plate in the World Series, not such a great Indian name, right? Yeah. Because I feel bad for him, because that guy, Clayton Kershaw, is probably, if not the best, one of the best pitchers of his era. He's in the top 2 or 3. He just can't find it. And it's hard in baseball. Like in football, there's a lot of blame to go around, right? On either side of the ball. If you're a great player and things don't work, there's a lot of blame to go around because they can ISO you out of the game, even with a quarterback, right?
Yeah.
It's lonely up there on the hill.
Yeah, when you're the pitcher and you can't play in the big game, you're done.
But it's also. I mean, I think like pace of the game and everything else. It's why baseball as a pastime. It's not our national pastime anime, right?
No, not at all.
Well, no, they've priced it out. There's no longer there's very few like Saturday, Sunday afternoon games. I mean, the whole idea is it was a pastime because it was cheap to go. It was more of a social event, and everyone could go do whatever. And that's where
it was like a national church of sorts.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's like the big thing, like at Yankee Stadium, the bleacher creatures. It was like no matter what, it $10 to get in. That's basically gone.
When I was a kid, it was $5 to get into Fenway. You could go downtown on public transportation, get into the game. Some old dude who's probably still there is probably close to 1,000 years old.
You had the box seats back in 1919.
What's that? Well, I'm sorry. What'd you say?
When you had the club box seats in 1919. Back then.
Yeah. Actually, it was 1912. I was one of the first people let in. Right.
It was right after you got off your horse in the Spanish War.
Yeah. Exactly.
So check this out. Here's the connection to tech as I clean up the water I just spilled all over my keyboard.
I thought it was because your water bottle was invisible.
No, I know, man. See, the green screen picks it up. So I tried to transfer it to my squeezy cycling bottle, and there's a volumetric difference between the two that I did not realize. And so here's the connection to technology, though, with the corruption in sports. You guys know I like cycling. And so there's a dude in the United Kingdom. He's a British cyclist that I've been following, young kid. And so he just went pro like 2 years ago. And so this is what's called Continental Pro. So you're not on a world tour team, but you're on like one of the, what would be like AAA baseball equivalent, right? You're like on a feeder squad. And so if you persist, you win enough, a world tour team will pick you up to help carry one of the main guys, right? And that's kind of the sequence for it.
You'll be a domestique.
And yeah, exactly, a domestique. And so I've been following this dude because he makes really slick videos, and it's interesting to watch a young kid come up and train and so forth and so on. So last year, the cycling training program I use, which is like a virtual world, and you have your little guy inside or girl, as it may be, and you can ride around and whatever, right? You can like go on tour courses and whatever. It's a great training program. They partnered with British Cycling, which is a national organization commission, to create a world championship that's an esport inside this environment, okay? So there is a world championship in regular road racing, and then there's continental championships and so forth, national championships, so forth and so on. So this dude I've been watching wins, okay? And apparently, as of October, I just found out, has been disqualified. And wait, not only disqualified and his world title in the game stripped, they banned him, but they also bled that ban over to road racing. Like,
why?
You know what I mean? Okay, here's why. Check this out. This is the craziness of how tech and sport is merging, and the corruption of commissions goes across. When he first started playing the game, you can earn achievements in the game, and you unlock like what are skins. And so you can have like a different jersey, a different bike color, a different bike shape, so forth and so on. Okay.
Sponsorships.
And yeah. Okay. And so one of the nicest bikes in the game is what everybody calls the Tron bike, because it has like neon wheels and it looks like one of the Tron motorcycles. And the only way to get it is by accumulating 50,000 vertical miles. And so the game with the right equipment can keep track of ascent and descent, and it just tracks all this stuff. Okay. And so when he first started riding in this game to train, it was just like a fluff off, hey, I'm just checking this out. And so somebody wrote a program that will trick the game into thinking that you do 50,000 vertical miles and you get the bike like in 2 hours. Okay. And so he did this. And then like a year later, he enters this race and doesn't think about it because there were no rules at that time. You know, nobody was involved. It was just bullshit. Somebody ratted him out after he won. Turned him in. And so they investigated, and sure enough, he must have not had 50,000 vertical miles accumulated on his account, and they banned him. But they actually banned him in real life road racing, not just the game.
I don't even know what to say.
Talk about corruption, man.
The apocalypse.
That's like you multi-boxing and with World of Warcraft, and then being told you can't go teach tomorrow.
You're right. Exactly. Oh man. Like, and this young kid is okay. Look, man, you shouldn't have like tricked the game and cheated a little bit to get the bike. Whatever. Okay, that's a moral lapse in judgment. But isn't that part of being young? Put that aside.
It's right? A game.
But it's not. I mean, it's not like it's EPOs on a real road race.
Right.
But-
Nothing like
but
that.
this is what-
Every kid out there is looking to download the next cheat engine because they want to be able to have all the superpowers and stuff like that in these video games.
But it's just like anything else. Now that there's money in video games, that it becomes a thing, right? When it was just you were playing for pride, okay, dudes will do what they do. Dudes will do what they need to do, or women will do what they need to do to get there. But now that they're putting esports on ESPN.
Oh, the Ocho.
Oh yeah.
Right. Well, it's actually it might be the Nacho, the 9 or whatever it is. You got the Ocho and the Nacho, right? But hey, they had an Ocho sport on there yesterday. It was the American Cornhole professional.
I'm gonna do that.
I want to go on
They do it indoors. I mean, they don't have to judge for the win. Just like white men can't.
Axe throwing is on there now too, which
that would be Ian's role.
But see, the problem with this cycling thing is, wait a minute. This is what I love about corrupt commissions. It's, hey, we're going to ban this guy. Don't look at what the hand over here is doing, yeah? Because check this out. So not only was this commission not in charge of the esports side of it when this dude botted getting the bike, but wait a minute. You have a national championship. Why isn't everybody on the same bike? Why are people using their personal accounts? Because the people that competed in it had to do it live. It was like a big BBC broadcast. It was actually really slick. But you know what I mean? Like, why didn't you check that beforehand? Like, what are you doing? Because they made them weigh in. They checked their equipment to make sure it was all calibrated correctly. So why didn't you make sure everybody had the same bike?
Sponsorships.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, right.
It's
right.
Yeah, it's just like in the movie The Last Boy Scout.
Let's take it back to baseball.
All right, what do you got?
In the late 70s, early 80s, somewhere around there. I don't remember the exact year, but it was about the first time they started talking about revenue sharing in probably the late 80s, actually. They started talking about revenue sharing in Major League Baseball. And it was on the heels of football figuring it out, right? That every team can be a multi-billion-dollar team, and everybody can feel a competitive team, and we're going to mandate that you spend a certain amount of the shared revenue to put a competitive team on the field. Okay. Right. They asked baseball. Well, when you ask baseball, you're only asking 3 or 4 teams, right? If they want to do it, you're asking the Yankees, the Red Sox, the LA Dodgers, and maybe Atlanta and the Chicago teams, right? Maybe, right? You're not asking anybody else because everybody else is on that teat, right? And Steinbrenner had the best, and this was a slam at the commissioner who used to be the owner of the Milwaukee Brewers, right? And he said, hey, if I wanted to run a semi-profitable, maybe failing business, I'd have brought the Brewers, right? And that was the last time they talked about it, right? And so one of the big things, the big advantages that the big 4 or 5 have is local TV markets, right? Because they don't share local TV revenue. Well, this is the thing that baffles me about Baltimore not being competitive. They get all their local TV revenue, which is a big deal because it's Mid-Atlantic, it's DC, Baltimore area, and they get some portion of the Nationals revenue because that was the deal that Angelos made to get the team so close to Baltimore because they're stripping off fans, right? In his mind. They don't share in park revenue, I think, and then
it's the HSN.
Right. But the big thing is the TV revenue. Kansas City's TV package is $2 or $3 million a year. Right. New York they own Yes Network, right? And they put their own product on their own television station. They can pay their players out of that. They don't have to charge anybody to get in the front gate, and they're still profitable. And to a certain extent with NESN in New England, with the Red Sox, and then certainly the deal that the Dodgers, and then with, I can't remember the local TV affiliate that Chicago has, right? Those teams, when you do evaluation of the team, it's got to include their local TV deal, and that's where they don't want to share the revenue, right? And it's especially like with New England and with Boston and New York, they've cultivated those relationships with those entities over the year. When I was a kid, you were watching on UHF channel. In New England, it was channel 38. Same
right.
deal. You watched the the Bruins on, right?
And before that, you were listening to it on the radio.
Well, yeah, you started there. But but now with tech, what's the, what are the analytics on fans, right? We talk about all the analytics that are in the game, right? And baseball, in my opinion, until you get savvy on the tech calling balls and strikes, and it's a union thing. It's old people are nostalgic for the way the game was when they were a kid. Well, guess what? Old people are nostalgic for the way it was when they were kids. Going to go out of business, right? But even in the NBA this year, people watching the game is down, and and the NBA's got it down. They change the game as quickly as anybody to make it more viewable, to make it for that 18 to 34-year-old audience. Actually, probably 18 to 40, the people with really disposable income that want to see it. What's the big bump in viewership this week? Zion Williamson came back, started, big impactful college player, was hurt, and he came in and lit it up.
Yeah, he made like 24 consecutive points or something like that.
Well, and he was as a big dude that's a dunk machine and can jump out of the gym. He made 4 threes in a row, right?
Yeah.
But everybody's been waiting to see him. That player still drives ratings. Who does that in baseball? Right? It's affiliation to teams and your love of the team. And nobody loves the Red Sox more than I do, right? But it's the affiliation of a team. You could strip all the players that are on that team off and put nine new starters on the field, and I'm going to figure out who they are, and I'm going to root for them because I root for the team. We're now
that's why y'all got rid of Alex Cora.
Exactly. The managers don't matter in baseball, right? Which is why they have this discussion of saying Pedroia is not coming back to play. Put him on the bench, make him the manager, right? Because now you've got a young generation, and baseball is hard. Because if you look at Patrick Mahomes and certainly the Kyler Murray, the kid that plays out in Arizona Cardinals now plays football. They have those weird arm angles, and they can throw the ball a gazillion yards on a rope. Why? Because they were baseball players,
pitchers,
and pitchers in particular. But think about this: if I'm a young athlete that's a phenomenal superstar in multiple sports, either say I can play basketball or football, or I can play baseball and football, right? I'm going to gravitate towards, if it's basketball and football, I want to play basketball. Number one, because I can get to the pro level quicker. And more importantly, every dollar of a contract's guaranteed, right? And I'm not in a collision sport. I'm in a contact sport, right? But if it's baseball and football, I want to go to football because, as Dan, you found out, anything can go wrong in the minors.
Yep.
Right? And your can't miss guy is now missed, right? And so you look at how many tight ends were great basketball players in college. Tony Gonzalez will be
a ton.
Right. Why? Because they can catch the ball, but they don't have the nuances and the gracefulness at 6'6", whatever, to play basketball. Right. And that, when you start thinking about the economics of the game and then the watchability of the game, what do we have to do with technology? Right. It started in the stands. Like if you go to San Diego when they built the new park down there, and having gone to that baseball park and growing up in Fenway, where, those seats were built for little people at the turn of the last century, right? To go there, and now there's a QR code on the back of every seat. They walk up, they scan your QR code, you order right there, you pay, and the food's almost there when you get done ordering, right? So they go after the fan experience. Well, I think they've tuned the fan experience up, especially in all these newer stadiums, with femtocells, with things. So you've got that in-stadium experience from the technology perspective. Everybody wanting to be on their phones, which cracks me up. You go to the game and you're going to be on your phone, right? You better be looking at home plate and where those foul balls are coming, not or you're going to get a ball in the noggin. But now in all sports, what are we doing with technology? Football, for example, making a big partnership with Microsoft. They're not flipping photos over. Everybody's working on
the surfaces
on the Microsoft Surface, right? Baseball, for the love of God, even with this cheat, and I say cheating and air quote scandal, because now we're arguing over how you steal signs. Oh, it's okay to steal signs like we did it in 1920. It's not okay to do it like we did it in 2020. Like we have the ability to do it in 2020.
Right.
Right. And I don't like it. Just it makes me apoplectic that we've wasted like 3 weeks on sports television over this.
Well, funny, maybe 7 years ago when I think it was the Cardinals hacked I can't remember which other team's scouting system, so they could all their
But who did they fire? They fired the three lowly Scott, like the three young kids that all had computer science degrees that were like, were power nerds that were like, I can do this, and boom, they're in. They're those three people that are our people. Like we would hire in a heartbeat to work at a company, right? And again, I'm not getting blamed. The manager.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
It's interesting because while I would say I'm much more with baseball being that traditionalist, like I don't like instant replay in baseball. I think it's because it's more of to me a game of errors is what winds up the impurities of it is what makes it perfect. But you're right. It's if we don't add the technology back because of the amount of you're not going to get kids wanting to play. The balls and the strikes are the things that just make everyone pretty much go nuts, and it's very easy for us to figure it out. I mean, it's either to you could literally put lasers and if it didn't get green, then it's red. So
we're using lasers now.
Yeah,
the minute they put. It's like Texas Hold'em, right? When you watch it on TV, they've got all the cards laid out up there. It's like the minute they put the ball and strike box, they put the strike zone box there, and you started seeing what pitches are where, right? And now, why aren't you using that technology? Because you're going to blame the ump if he doesn't see what that was seen. And that system might not be perfect, but more often than not, it is, because it's 17 inches wide and how high and how high and low it is. Again, that guy steps in, boom, here's whatever metric we're using to gather where his knees are at and where his armpits are at or mid chest line. It's not hard.
It's pretty simple. I mean, they could put the RFID tag right in the jersey so right where that person hits from here, and as they step up, I mean, the calibration would be milliseconds for as each person comes in, and it's either it's there or it's not.
Think about the technology that goes into the television experience, because that's really where things are falling off. Fans want to go to the game still, for the most part. It depends where you live, but fans want to go to the game because of that in-game experience, drinking beers, hanging out with your buddies, eating, all that stuff, right? The little kids getting the ball and those types of things. But they've got to make the television experience modern. Here's what I love with pitchers, where they release the ball on different pitches and getting to a place where they have a common release point, right? Where their arm angle and release point is the same on multiple pitches is the goal of any major league pitcher. That and to have great movement on your ball. I can't remember which pitcher it was, but they were showing that for his fastball, for his cutter, and for his curveball, the ball is released at exactly the same spot at exactly the same time, which really doesn't help the hitter, right? But they were, they superimposed all three of those on each other. And you watch the ball come out, his hand is exactly the same place. And then you watch the ball take off on three unbelievably different trajectories and end up in the strike zone. Right?
Right.
If you can do that, why don't we have automatically called balls and strikes?
Yeah.
There's no reason not to. And I go to
there's no reason not to. If
you can get something right, why do you let it be wrong? Right. And I get it. It's sports, but it's not the argument that you had in the 50s and 60s when baseball players, football, all sports, professional sports players, they had off-season jobs because what they were making playing sports didn't pay the bills. Right. Mm-hmm. And I still think the players get a raw deal. And because in any business, 65 to 75% of your revenue goes out the door to pay your employees in every other walk of life. Right. They've negotiated a 50-50. The owners have negotiated roughly a 50-50 split. That's a good deal. Now, granted, they're putting a lot of money into the middle of the table, but they're also not giving money away. Right? People that say, "Oh, it's just millionaires are," that's envy. Right? That totally is envy. Because if your kid could play one of these professional sports most of the time, because it's always middle-aged men arguing over, that's crazy that kid makes that much money. Why?
Because people watch them.
The revenue, the revenue's there. And we used to have it in the teams like, we work a lot harder than those guys. Yeah, but 80,000 people and millions of folks on television don't line up every Sunday to watch us come to work.
But, and it's interesting when people say, this is the thing that always gets me, well, we work a lot harder. Really? So these guys, not only do they go to play this particular sport, but when they're not playing that sport, they're 10 hours or more a day, every day. Like there's no day off for a professional athlete. They are, they have to, they finely tune what goes into their body, how much exercise, how to get that peak performance. And they're doing something that is literally 1 in a million.
Right.
So yes, your work may be, very hard, but you didn't put all that time. You were not considered the top 1% of the 1% in that
of the 1%.
Right.
Well,
and no one wants to watch you. Like a neurosurgeon, if you're a good neurosurgeon, you're going to make $1 million a year, but you're not getting
See,
like that.
This is the thing is so we all have that idea of, well, whatever we're doing is the most important to you. Yeah. Okay. It should be to you, right? Here's the great equalizer that I love.
Passionate about and you love, go do something else.
Yeah. Right.
That's my leadership talk of the day, right? That's it. I'm done.
So this is the thing I love about technology and the trajectory we're on with it, particularly in how we organize socially. 5 years ago, you had no way to get 80 million people to watch you. You do now. You can stream it just like this. And guess what? If you're 1% of 1%, 8 million people will tune in and watch, and you'll make millions of dollars. Yeah. It happens every day.
With sports, you look at LeBron James. He spends $1.5 million a year to take care of the machine. Right? Why? Because he's protecting $1 billion investment. Right? And if you look, and it all comes down to simple economics. Like you remember when the general manager of the Houston Rockets commented on Taiwan, right? And what was going on? And the Chinese government, while the Lakers were over there, basically wouldn't put them on TV and everything. Said everybody had to apologize. And LeBron got up, and I thought it was very ham-handed is the best term I could say. Like he got up and started to lecture the owner or the general manager of the Rockets about human rights, right? Yeah. It wasn't about human rights. He makes the big chunk of change being LeBron James in China. And I'm not begrudging him one nickel. Go make more, right? Anybody, if you basically begrudge people for making money, you're never going to have any. And if you're envious of people's success, you're never going to have any. Right? Because his success in no way detracts from mine or anybody else's, right? But he was protecting an economic investment, an economic outcome. He wasn't thinking about, human rights abuses, right? And that is where like some of these athletes cross the line, right? It's like, hey, I get it, but I don't want to hear your opinion on that because you're not. It's not true. Like if you come out and you say Kaepernick's another one, right? You can agree or disagree with how he manifested it, right? And I think that in America today, in large portion, when people feel, right? And feels the important word, right? Because I can tell you the sky's blue because I can why the sky's blue because I can empirically improve it, but I can't tell people how to feel, right? And once people feel that you're stepping on the flag, right? And that's really what this came down to. You're stepping on the flag, right? That you've lost America, right? Especially the sports watching public, because it's largely people between 40 and 70, right? You know what I mean? And how am I dragging that in, right? And that to me is the thing. Like you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, they agreed that they weren't going to go on the field back a couple years ago. They weren't going to go on the field just to remove that issue. When their starting left tackle, who's 6'10" and weighs 290, came out and basically alone had his hand over his heart for the national anthem, he went back in the locker room and took shit. Why? Because, it wasn't part of team. Well, guess what? That guy graduated West Point. He went to Afghanistan 3 times, right? He sponsored his interpreter to come over here to the U.S. to get him away from that. He has a lifelong commitment to something that he believes in, right? But that's where people start. I think when you start, because now it's starting to take money out of people's pockets, largely the athlete at that point, right?
Yeah.
That's when you start saying, hey, we live in a global society where, you said, 80 million people in an instant can watch this podcast if they found it to be appetizing. What? We would instantly be able to monetize that.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody would stand up and clap and cheer. Why? Because it's 3 knuckleheads on a Sunday morning coming out, and this is how we would talk if we were hanging out at a bar together or we were in the office together, right? And if nobody would begrudge that, not even a little bit, until somebody said, those guys are making millions of dollars and all they're doing is doing tech bullshittery on a Sunday. Now somebody's going to get envious and say, I could do that, right? And I would
because we look at economics as if it's all a zero-sum game, and it's not.
Right.
My success isn't exclusive.
Right. There's not one big pot of money for success, and we're going up and trying to cycle some out.
There's plenty for everybody.
And especially today. Like you want to be more successful than you are tomorrow. There are 100 venues of it, right? But a lot of it is people want to be out there. They think this is the easy button. They think that generating content is the easy button. How diligent do I have to be? Like you said, Dan, it's totally correct. The minute the season ends, every football player that's not going to play in the Super Bowl is going to take a couple, 3 weeks off, kind of let their body heal up a little bit, and they're going to get back at some measure of getting themselves to be better next year than they were last year. That's what everybody does in their job. You show up to be better tomorrow than you were yesterday, or you're unemployable in the future, right? Yeah. Because you're not kept up. That's all they're trying to do. And he spends $1.5 million on his body. Well, he makes what, $30 million on the basketball court a year, but that's not where he makes his money, right? And LeBron to me is a weird thing because he's done everything right that you expect an athlete to do, including being a great parent. Okay. Right? Is he an excitable parent on the sidelines watching his son play basketball? Yeah, totally. Guess what? I can be that way. Every parent. You don't have to be LeBron James to be an excitable parent watching a basketball game, right?
Right.
But in society, the first thing we want to do is tear down, especially in the Black community, athletes that don't take care of their kids, right? They become the poster children for what's bad in sports. Well, you can't have it both ways. We're not going to tear down a guy who has, I can't remember the name of this guy's football player. He's got 6 kids from 5 different women, and people make fun of him.
Isn't that Dominique? I think it's Dominique Rogers Cromartie.
Well, it's Dominic Bell play. The point is, you're going to tear that guy down, and he can stand in the middle of the room and take the abuse, right? Because that's not within what the country says is social norms. But on the other hand, when you have folks that do everything we ask them to do on the court, when has LeBron James ever been in trouble, right? From the time, and he showed up at 18 years old. He had every opportunity to be a knucklehead and for us to forgive him for the first 2 or 3 years because they're like, well, normally he'd be in college and we'd never see those things.
Yeah, Josh Gordon, right. For example.
Right, but Antonio Brown, right? But he's had every opportunity to do the wrong thing, and he's done the right thing. And now because he's done the right thing and he's sat on the top of the mountain for so long, people are starting to try to chip away at that and drag him down a little bit. Like, he's not the player he once was. Well, the dude's got 1 million minutes in 17 years in the NBA. His body is reflective of that abuse, but he's still badass.
Who is a 35-year-old athlete and still performing? I mean, my whole knock on LeBron is he just doesn't want the ball in the closing part of the game. He'd rather pass than shoot.
Right. You can. That's the thing. Is like if you look at I think the closest comparisons. It's obviously everybody wants to compare every great player to being the next MJ, right? And I think the closest from a mindset. Let's not talk physical skills. The closest from a mindset is Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Right? That dude didn't want the ball at the end of the game. He wanted the ball every minute of the game.
Yeah.
Right? Give me the damn ball. Right? Is nowhere more prevalent than there. And you know what? And other players sense that, and they want to give. And that's at the high school level, or that's at the little kid level, all the way to the pros. Give me the person that wants the ball at the end of the game. Right? As a life skill.
Right.
Right? Because that goes once you're not, most people aren't, the NCAA does a great commercial. They have all these athletes, and most people are going to be a pro in something else, meaning they're going to go into the workforce. Right? But Dan, you've said it before, and I totally agree with it. The life skills you learn playing baseball, playing a team sport, are positively affecting your life every day of the week.
Yep.
Right? And that's whether it stops at high school, stops at college, or you go play pro. Why? Because most people that are athletes, when it comes down to it, they want the ball, right? They want the ball in the boardroom. They want the ball in their 5-man group when they're 23, 24. And why do employers look for college athletes, right? How many investment bankers played lacrosse at an Ivy League school when they were in college? A lot, right? Yeah. Why? Because they have more than anecdotal evidence that a quality education combined with learning how to be on a team makes you successful.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Yeah. Wait, this is one of the things I like about cycling so much too. When you look at it at the team level, is one guy wins, but that guy's picked by the group well ahead of time, and everybody else plays their role to ensure that the team wins.
Correct.
And by that one dude winning, the whole team is going to win. Just because of the amount of points that will accrue over the course of the race.
Yeah. U.S. Postal Service won when Lance Armstrong won.
Right. Exactly.
But without the rest of his teammates there, Lance Armstrong wasn't getting it because they had to play the blockers and all that kind of
thing. Yeah, you're right. It's impossible to win solo. You'll never see it. It won't happen. The group itself is too strong. And so this is why you can step back and look, okay, there's a huge lesson here. Understand where you're at the current time, because you see it a lot too. Like, if Lance were hurt, one of his super domestiques would have taken over because they're capable. They're just not quite as good as Lance.
Who was that?
But then you factor in
his name began with an H. Who should have been a lead rider on another team, but he loved what he did on U.S. Postal. I'll think of it.
His first name or his last name?
His last name. We've really
because it was Hamilton.
We jumped into a rabbit hole. We're trying to figure out 90s domestiques on the U.S. Postal team.
Yeah. But that team was stacked. and so you can look at like British cycling. Their teams are stacked too. Yeah. They always have 2 or 3 guys that could easily win. And you've seen it the last few years. That team continues to win, but it's never the same dude that actually wins the Tour de France. That's how strong they are. And so one guy gets a little sick. Maybe he didn't drink enough water 2 days ago, and so he's dehydrated, whatever. The other guy just kicks in, and the other guy just slots in and takes over. And it's a beautiful, well-oiled machine as long as the leadership is good.
Right. Think about this.
And, that's
when people talk about cycling and they're like, "That's not all that." I'm like, "Hey, hold on. If you've ever watched, you watch the Tour de France and you see they're going up the Alpe d'Huez or some out of classification hill, and the dude's sitting on the saddle, and he's busting his ass to get to the top of the hill, and somebody wants to come out and run. They can't keep up with him running their ass off up a hill. That's how fast they're going. Right? Yeah. Up a category 5 or out of classification hill. And the physiology behind that just absolutely amazes me.
It's the peak of human endurance. It really is. It pushes so many boundaries. That's why you see this is an interesting phenomenon too, to go down this rabbit hole a little bit. That's why almost all of them start to develop exercise-induced asthma. They're pushing their cardiovascular systems to the brink so much that it's not even asthma. It's your damn lungs giving out. That's what.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Nice. So originally we wanted to talk about the California Consumer Privacy Act.
We're an hour into it. We're not even
and as usual, I find a way to derail the entire topic.
Dude, I tell you what, that might be a new record. Hi, my name's Dan, and F you, professional baseball this week.
Hey, we have a category for it, so you can say it's somewhat planned for.
Yeah.
You just know it's going to happen.
Well.
So you want to talk about privacy?
Yeah, I'll give you my 2 cents on the whole thing. because all this is great. Companies shouldn't keep more than what they actually need to. Where I have a big concern is for those people, that want to eventually opt out. Then what happens to a Facebook, a Twitter, whatever, when they say, okay, no problem, but then you have to pay this type of monthly charge? Because the California Consumer Privacy Act allows the opportunity for them to opt out to not sell their personal data. Forget about how broad it is, because unless you have your own static IP address, I don't think an IP address should be considered PII data according to this, because that IP address is actually owned by a third party entity. But how many people are going to start flipping out when Facebook says, okay, you want to use Facebook, but it's going to cost you $100 a month, because that's my lost revenue. So, or you don't get to use Facebook.
Yeah. See, this is the issue I have when I was thinking about this, and this ties into some of my whole privacy view to begin with. But right, this is an intermediary to an intermediary, maybe. This is the giant flaw that I don't think a lot of people, not enough people, are focusing on, is this opt-in, opt-out structure, right? There's a number of problems, one of which you just hit on. I'll illustrate another one here in a second. When you allow an opt-out architecture, that is, opt-in is by default. To opt out, I have to give you PII. Because otherwise, how are you pairing me with a data set? And so if I want my data set excluded, I have to give you more, maybe potentially than you already have, personal information. Well, where are you keeping that? Is that included in the data set that's being excluded? Because it has to be on record.
That's the part about the actual act. That part is excluded from the act. It actually talks about that and says they're allowed to give data to be able to identify you that they cannot tell you.
That's right. And here's why. Speaking as somebody that lived in California for 20 years, a lot of the legislature in that state is oriented around future legal liability. And that's not exclusive to California, but California is uniquely aware of that, right? This is why on every building in California, you see the little sign, this building may cause cancer because it has blue paint or some bullshit, right? And that's why. Because just by walking in, you have to see that sign, and by seeing it and going in the door, you've absolved whoever owns that commercial property from legal liability. 100% true, right? And so that's how I read that. Like, well, wait a minute. You're going to make me give you something that you have already deemed valuable in your business model so that I can exclude the stuff that you already collected, and I gave you willingly. Fair enough. But you get to keep that. But
they can't sell it. Right. I mean, that's the. It doesn't. That's the part to me where this kind of thing gets. One, they have to provide a privacy notice that no one reads, which gets back to your aspect of California, the California piece about future, liability. But that this is what they're doing. Like, at what point? Why do we need legislature to tell us and protect us from what we already know? It's the same way I go with seatbelts. You don't want to wear a seatbelt for your own. You're taking your life in your own hand. You're foolish to not use that. You're using the internet. There's no expectation of privacy. So,
that's why I would suggest if somebody out there wants to create a new social media platform to take over at least a significant amount of the market from, let's say, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, what the fuck ever, right? Here's how you do it. You don't try to replicate what they have and keep it private. No, you do the exact opposite. You make it open and transparent. You continue to monetize all the data that people opt into, because opt-out is by default, and then you co-opt the revenue. If you're gonna opt in and give me your data that I'm gonna turn around and use as a revenue stream, I'm going to give you a percentage cut of that since it's your data. Why not?
Yeah.
That's how I would do it. Fuck it. It may fail, but man, I think that's the way to go. It's worth a try. Nobody's doing it.
I can't remember there's another social media network that I think might be called Minds. Don't quote me on that, but that has that type of model where you show up and you start opting into things, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Remember it used to be called Cyber Dust? It was a messaging app, and now it's just called Dust. There's a certain amount of social activity based on that. And again, you're opting in. I think, if you're going to talk about privacy, it's balanced with what I believe to be silly and onerous like legal oversight, for the sake of saying, oh, in the future somebody might get mad at me, because you remove somebody's ability to take ownership of themselves. You give somebody, hey, it's somebody else's fault. It can't be my fault because I'm not stupid, right? And that's how these dumb laws become. It's like, hey, I've got to protect people from their own stupidity, right? But if it starts with, and this is an age-old argument, how do we end up clicking through and saying yes as quickly as we can to everything in terms of services and all those privacy agreements? Why? Because nobody
I did it now.
Right, exactly. And when you've done that, you've made 82 page this, 22 page that, or whatever. You're encouraging people to close their eyes and just go, hey, trust me, I'm doing the right thing. When I was at Blackbird, one of the things we did was we used to pull excerpts out of terms and services. One of us would read the terms and services for every piece of software we advocated somebody install. And on one of these, it wasn't Malwarebytes, but it was one of those little free things to clean up a Windows machine. One of the things that you agreed to was that the guy who developed the software, you agreed that his girlfriend was smoking hot. And it said it in the terms and services like that, right? And I thought, genius, because that's universal, right? He didn't specifically say Sally is smoking hot. He said my girlfriend. So for the rest of the time, he can just go, hey, baby, right? And I was like, and
all these people agree.
Yeah, one of the guys he goes, this has got 100 million downloads. 100 million people think you're agreed that you're smoking hot, right? But the net of it was even one of the guys is like, that's simple genius, right? It was because I can, you can agree to anything and you're not going to read it, right? For the most part, it's not malfeasant. But you look at what we did when we were at Simon Circle with the Power Privacy video, that having people read the terms and services out loud elicits humorous responses. My favorite one was that little, the older lady with gray hair, and she's reading and she looks right at the camera and she's like, is this real? And they're like, yeah, we had to bleep it because she was like, this is effed up. Yeah. Right? Your natural response when you actually go to read it is, this is effed up, then we got to make it plain language. And it's got to be, here's my bullet points of 5 things, because most Americans, or most people in the world now, have the attention span of a 5-year-old on Adderall, right? And jacked up on gummy bears and everything else, right? No, I want that now. Somebody told me TikTok was great. I'm going to just keep doing this as fast as I can until I get TikTok videos coming at me, until Gary Vee explodes my brain with content.
It's fascinating to me as how when you look at social media and the amount of people that will put on their profile that no one has the right to be able to use their image, blah 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 blah. That none of that stuff matters, because if you log back in, you've agreed to let them use your stuff all over again. And this is where, as soon as I'm just waiting for someone to tell Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever that I want to opt out, and then they charge them some astronomical number and people go berserk over it.
Right.
They will. I totally agree, dude. 100% that's what's going to happen.
Because I would. If I'm Zuckerberg. Oh crap! I hit the camera.
Your camera. There you go, brother.
Yeah. I could never be. I'm just. If someone is going to wind up going berserk, but I would charge them some astronomical numbers, like $10,000, something like that, to where some person's going to be like, I can't afford that, and then they want to sue and all this kind of stuff, and be like, hey, you don't have to use my service. So it's, if you want to use my free service and you want to opt out, then you got to pay me $10,000.
Right. I'm not running. This isn't a 501c3. I'm not running a charity here.
Yeah.
You want to use something for free. I need to make money. And so here's the relationship that we actually have. Right.
Yeah.
And again, I think a lot of it comes down to envy. People go, look, Zuckerberg doesn't help himself out because he comes off like a Bond villain a lot, but he's a billionaire and I'm not. And so he's got to be doing something wrong, because there's no way that he can be that much smarter than me.
As a matter of fact, I go one step further. If I'm Zuckerberg, I automatically, at midnight tonight, I log everyone out of Facebook, and at the next login, I tell them they have to opt in or opt out. And if they choose to opt out, I immediately put up the thing for how much it's going to cost them if they want to get back into Facebook. Otherwise, I delete all of your data, and I'm completely now in alignment with Facebook, or not Facebook, but the California Privacy Act. And I give you a one-time link that you've got 30 days to download your data. At the end of that 30 days, I've erased everything. And boom.
And it's completely technically feasible to do that.
Yeah, it's simple because Facebook already offers you the way to download all of your data. But now I log everyone out. You either pay me 10 grand a year, and if you say no, you're not able to get in. You've got a link that's valid for 30 days to download your data. At the end of that 30 days, I've deleted everything. Watch
See,
everyone in the world go.
Oh, they'll go ape shit.
Yeah.
Because the counter argument then.
I would do it just for the fun of it. The social.
Yeah. Well, see, then the social argument would be, well, you're creating a financially classist system whereby now only the rich can afford to have a social network. It's called a fucking country club, bro.
Yeah.
We've had them since the 1800s.
Well,
Earlier
than that, TK can attest to that.
Well, I was keeping it within the confines of the show.
Of the club that you're in.
Hey, I don't know what you're talking about.
You've talked about it on air.
I know, man. I know. Hey, did I tell you I took an officer spot?
No.
Oh yeah, man. Now I am the junior deacon. So that's the first real chair, it's called, that you can sit in. And so, man, it's kind of fun, dude. You have to memorize all these lines, and there's different things going on. And my big job, I get to guard the door, dude. I have like a big halberd.
Oh,
So you're like the as of right now, you're like
the sergeant at arms.
Well, I was going to more say the most junior Supreme Court justice. He's going to be the one that always answers the door.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah.
Can you imagine what I think? So it's not what was the last Supreme Court justice? It wasn't Gorsuch. It was what's the last guy that just got nominated to the Supreme Court?
Oh my goodness! Like
Kavanaugh.
Yeah, Kavanaugh. Right.
Yeah.
So that, in theory,
Don't compare me to that slimy fuck.
Well, no, but in theory, like if it wasn't for like so prior to Ginsburg, I can't remember who it was, but that person was like having to open the door every day for like 10 years. Like he could never go anywhere until someone else was nominated.
All right. So to be fair, there's another role that sits in the man trap, and they actually have a sword.
That sounds like a bar.
Yeah. And so that person is actually in charge. Yeah. That person is actually in charge of the door and letting people come in and out. I just manage it from the inside where it's secure. He manages it from the outside where it's insecure.
Yeah, well, this is just in this case, it's like once they're in, you're just preventing them from leaving until they've been authorized to leave.
Yes, and also removing them if they shouldn't be there.
Right.
Which actually is a big deal, come to find out.
Yeah.
Like,
Who knew?
They came to me and they're like, hey, man, do you want to, because the way it works, so in case anybody that's watching this doesn't understand what we're talking about Freemasonry. And so the way it works is.
That's why I said
there's
founding members.
Yeah. And so you have different officer chairs, they're called, right? And so the idea is that when you come in and you're first able to sit in a chair, you start at the beginning and you work your way through these chairs and to become the master of the lodge. And these are only 1-year terms, and you have to be reappointed or reelected by the body of the lodge, okay? And so it's actually a built-in system of how you learn all the ritual and all the let's say the narrative. And you learn a tremendous amount of it by going through these chairs because of the stuff you have to memorize. And so like when there's different events going on, there's certain roles have certain things to do. And it's just, man, fuck it, dude. Once a month I get to hang out with some guys that I've come to like, and we get to chat about things that aren't contentious like religion or politics. We get to talk about other things.
Nice.
And now I get a big halberd. And I get to challenge people as to why they're there. And if they're not there, I get to remove them.
But do you get to bring the halberd home?
No, it has to stay there, bro.
That's where I'd have to draw the line.
Dan, I want my halberd at home. It's mine. You can't touch it.
Until I am no longer in that role. It's my halberd.
There are many like it, but this one is mine.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, there's 4, and I have one of the 4.
Are there 4 doors?
No.
Do you
No,
all-
but there's just 4 positions.
Oh, you got backup halberds.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
In case you got to send one out for maintenance.
Yeah, no, exactly. Actually, yeah. Because part of my role is to go out and talk to people on the public side, and I have to take the implement in my office with me in case I need to act. And then there's another person that is my backup. So when I walk out, they take my role. And then there's somebody above me that I take their role when they leave. And so there's like this little system built into it.
So, I wasn't able to be on the show last week, and I don't know that PK really, cared about this, but how good did Connor look?
Oh yeah, dude, we're talking about MMA now. Now wait. We're back to tech bullshit, right?
Yeah.
He didn't waste any time.
No, he look. I mean, he self-admitted. He's like, look, I got caught up in my own hype. I was drinking way too much. I would show up and just be like, hey, who's here? Let's train. And he said, nope. I think really what it was is Kavanaugh said, either you train the right way or I'm not training you anymore. Because after that Khabib fight, John had basically said he may not do this again. He may not train.
Well, I think this is indicative of not only intrinsically being somewhat self-aware, because I don't think everybody is, and you can't make somebody be self-aware, which is why sometimes we have to walk away from situations. But it's also the importance of having a good social group that acts as that leader that says, hey, look, man, you're out of line. And this is what we think you need to do to get back in line. And if you want to get back in line, we're here. But if you don't, well, you're on your own. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the hardest thing with anyone is to be that person that can walk up to somebody and go, hey, dude, get it back in the middle of the road. And
Yep.
not have them fundamentally run away from you, right? It's an intervention lifestyle, right? I think it's like, whatever is going bad. In large terms, we usually talk about it with substance abuse and, getting those things. But I mean, if you're not getting it done at work, because we've all seen this, like guy's not doing it. We talk behind their back about what they're not doing and how they're not doing it. And then nobody shows up in front of their face until it's like, hey, dude, you're done.
Right.
Right. Because we seem to assume that people
anywhere other than work.
No, because we seem to assume that people are aware of their own failure. And then I don't think that's a valid assumption all the time. Some people just aren't aware that they're not hitting it.
Right. And
Some people aren't aware how far off the path they are.
People that don't get it usually don't realize they don't get it.
Right. They don't.
That's right.
And if you think about this, how much, Connor had to realize, wait a minute, I didn't get here without my coach. And if he's saying he's not going to train me, I'm not going to get back. And Donald Cerrone is no joke. I mean, people can say whatever they want about this guy. Like he doesn't show up in the fights and blah, blah, blah. That dude would get on the plane at the last minute and fly across the world and go fight. I mean, he's had as many knockouts as any. I mean, yeah.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. And you can't have somebody that has records like most head kick knockouts, most finishes, most bonuses for finishes. I mean, it's endless. You're not a real journeyman when you have those kinds of records. You've just fallen short when it really matters. Well, fair enough. Lots of people do.
Hey, you're top 5. That doesn't mean you got the number 1. You're the 5th ranked person, and for Donald Cerrone in multiple weight classes.
Right.
Right.
Think about this though. Think about if you say, here's what happened with Conor McGregor.
He's like the Buffalo Bills in the 90s.
When did Mike Tyson's wheels come off his cart?
When Gus D'Amati died.
Right. Yep. When he lost, and then the indomitable King took over, and next thing you know, he's broke and he can't fight anymore. Right?
Yeah.
Well, not the broke thing is one thing, right? But I can't fight anymore. somebody said to me one time, if you could get in there and last for 10 seconds, would you go in there for $10 million? No, I might die. Right? I mean, I can run around for 10 seconds. It's the 11th second I'm worried about.
Right.
Because you look at Marvis Frazier, his dad like pushed him into the ring, and I remember like all these folks were at the fight. People were at the bar getting drinks, and the fight's already over.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
When Mike Tyson in that prime, it's
no
joke. I mean,
that's unbelievable.
Right. I mean, it's not like, think about all the training you've had. You get to use every single thing a part of your training. But in boxing, you only get to use 2 hands.
Right.
And they're they're gloved up. What are they like? Heavyweights or what are they wearing? 12-ounce gloves. Heavyweight. I don't remember.
I think it depends on the sanctioning, but yeah, somewhere around there.
But you can't use any of the other training. You can't grab. You can't do anything. It doesn't matter. One hit from a heavyweight like Mike Tyson at that time, you could die.
Or you could significantly alter your lifestyle. Right?
Yeah. I might have to be a vegetable.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta to volunteer to get punched in the face by him. Like he used to say, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
Face, you hit the dirt.
That's the thing, is anybody that says they would do it for any amount of money clearly has never been punched in the face. It's not fun.
No.
It's not fun.
And that just gets back to, here's Conor McGregor, who in one fight, changed his lifestyle by fighting. People can say whatever they want about what Floyd Mayweather did to him or didn't do to him. Conor didn't look bad for someone that had never been in a boxing ring. In terms of, he didn't look bad, and he didn't get knocked out by Floyd Mayweather. In all purposes, Floyd Mayweather should have finished him inside of 3 rounds. That just goes to show that Floyd Mayweather is never going to fight someone that's even close to a contender ever again, because he couldn't knock Conor McGregor out.
It also points again to the power of good leadership.
Yeah.
For Conor, who did start as a boxer, right? But didn't fight. I don't think he had any amateur matches or pro matches, at least no pro matches. But for somebody to come into a different discipline like that and do that well, and he did really well. There was a couple moments where he had Floyd in a little bit of trouble, and it went a long time, and he had composure. That's pure leadership. Not only him leading himself, but other people leading him on the right things to do and keep him on that path. Same thing you saw with this last fight. 40 seconds, man. 40 seconds.
Yeah. So if it's me and I'm Conor McGregor, I want to fight Nate Diaz again. I want to put that to rest. I don't want anyone thinking anything. I want to put that. I want to put that to rest. Every great there's got to be a trilogy.
It's the rubber match. It's going to make bank like the last 2 did. It's low risk because you're not fighting for a belt. You know what I mean? It's not like you're going up against the number 1 or the belt holder or the number 2 guy, and you have to worry about your position in the rankings, right? It's just a fun fight that the fans want to see. Well, you have the momentum because you won the last one.
Right. But we both know, or at least I think I don't know about TK, how much he really follows it, but either Nurmagomedov or Tony Ferguson's pulling out of this fight.
The probability is high because it's happened so many times.
Yeah. And they both pull out of fights often. So
yeah. And so if Khabib doesn't fight in this fight, was it April? I think that's when it's scheduled. He ain't fighting again until the fall.
Yeah.
Because of Ramadan and all that.
Right. So I think one of those 2 pulls out and Conor's fighting for that belt in April.
That could happen.
Even I want to see him fight Nate Diaz.
Watching that last fight, by those of you that have not been hit in the nose, you lose your ability to see and think clearly when you get hit in the nose. And that led right to getting tagged with a left foot in the noggin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love how Nate Diaz popped off that he wasn't impressed. He had a decision win against Donald Cerrone like years ago. And Conor just.
Hey, and you know what? This is the beauty of social media. Good for him for speaking up and keeping his name relevant. I would have too. I would have talked some shit.
Well, wasn't it But I think, as far as listening on ESPN or something, that the whole thing with he felt disrespected because Conor didn't say, "I'm coming after you," right? This whole, you've got to identify the next person you want to fight by talking crap the minute you get out of the ring with a win.
Yeah. Well, see, and so this goes back to our earlier point as we're wrapping this up. The way that Conor McGregor fought Nate Diaz in the very beginning is because Nate Diaz felt aggrieved because Conor McGregor was doing so well financially that he was, and I'll quote, "You're taking everything I worked for, motherfucker."
Yeah.
That was the quote. Right. And so we're back to this idea that only one person can have all the gold.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean? Well, there's no dragons hoarding all the gold in the kingdom anymore.
Right. Well, the Diaz brothers didn't have good leadership, right? So Nate Diaz talked about it on one of the podcasts that he didn't know he would just go and fight, and he would fight things that were not in his best interest. And that gets back to the leadership. The Diaz brothers do what they choose to do, and they don't listen to anyone else. And that's why they're in the predicament they're in. They don't have people helping to guide their career, and that's why they're in. McGregor, like in McGregor's earlier days in the UFC and coming up, he would talk a little bit of trash, but he was actually talking about the more of the scientific aspect and how I'm going to beat you, and you're not going to stop me. Later, he started getting really personal, and I think that's what really took down his, he started believing his own hype rather than his fighter IQ. And that really hurt him. He got back, with Donald Cerrone, he didn't talk any trash. He knew that Donald one hit and Conor's gone. I mean, it's just
well, and so you can see the difference in the quality of the leadership here again, because compare that to Ronda Rousey, who lost twice and then defected to big time wrestling. Piss poor leadership, man. It's something to stand there and have your ego completely stripped away, and you have to face the reality of who you are. That's tough, and it'll break people 100%, right? I mean, we've all seen it. I'm sure you saw it, like in training, TK. People get that stripped away, and you're faced with your own humanity. There's nothing. But
it's
left.
not. It's not.
That's hard.
I think you look at people that end up being great, is they get stripped away to zero, and then they say, "How do I get back?" Right? Two paths, right? Actually three. One, you stay there forever and you're miserable in your life. You've killed yourself internally, right? Your spirit is dead. You say, hey, under any circumstance, I'm going to come back and I'm going to be successful. Or you say, what's the easy route? Right? What's the path of least resistance? And I think that's the harder one, because you basically said, I gave up, I'm over here, but I know I gave up, right? And I think we call it the psychology of the quitter, right? And what did she do? She quit, right? Here's the thing. Even now, like, would you want to get armbarred by her?
No way.
No.
Who was the dark-haired girl before her that was a kickboxer? It was Muay Thai.
Gina Carano?
Gina Carano.
Would you want to get kicked by her?
No.
You might forget your zip code, right? If you get it kicked by her, right? And I don't care, man or woman, they were good fighters, right? And Gina Carano, she lost, and then she's like, hey, I'm going to go in the movies. What movie have you seen her in recently?
So I think she was in Fast.
The last one,
one of them.
But my point being is, she was on a trajectory, and she said, hey, nope, I'm not going to do that anymore, right? Well, was it because you got beat and didn't want to come back? But I think in life, I mean, that's, the bigger picture is how many times, and it's about fail fast, right? Mm-hmm. And if you don't have the expectation that you're ever going to fail, when you fail, it's tremendously difficult, right? And I've experienced it. Everybody has to a certain level, right? You get to a point you're like, hey, I got it going on. I'm on an upward trajectory. And then all of a sudden it's like, nope, boom, we're going to pull the rug out from under you. And I'm not going to say you've got to turn it around and fix yourself immediately, because it's not realistic, right? But you can sit there and wallow in your own crap for a while and be miserable. But at some point, you're either going to have a life that you're not going to enjoy, and you're going to die and go, God, why did it stop here? Or you're going to say at some point, enough, right? And how does that turn around? I think McGregor was going down that road, and he's like, wait a second, I've probably got one more chance. in sports, we continue to give people chances as long as they're entertaining or perform. But I probably got one more chance before my fighting ability drives my value. And if I keep messing around, I'm going to be doing Fight Club in Glasgow next week.
Well,
right.
And
he might turn into the next Donald Cerrone. So does he want to be put into just he's on the main card, or does he want to be in the main fight? Because as he talked about during that Floyd Mayweather buildup, that's what's going to create his family legacy, because he's got the clothing line, he's got the current garbage Irish whiskey, and it's
Irish whiskey garbage. All Irish whiskey is garbage, and don't at me.
Yeah, that it is. I still have the bottle. I can't not even Ian will drink this stuff. Okay, it's that bad.
Ian will drink it because he was
you were out there with me when you're out in South Bend with me, Jason. Did you wind up trying it? I can't remember.
You didn't have it then. We were just talking about it.
All right, it's garbage. But
or if you did, I wouldn't drink it because I don't drink Irish whiskey.
Yeah, I tried it. Now it's like $20 for people to go. So it's like rail. It's like what's the rail? But he's still, all that stuff can change his legacy, and I think he's come back to, hey, if I'm not on the main card, then my clothing line's not out there, and my whiskey is not out there. So I've got to be in the main event every single time. And the only way he does that is to go to it.
Let's take a guy.
I don't know why she didn't listen to her mom.
Oh,
Ronda Rousey's mom was also world-class judo, and her mom was adamant that her training coach should have
coach.
Yeah.
Think about this. Look at what's going on with Tom Brady right now. Right, to take somebody who's never been controversial his whole career, right? About, ostensibly he's never stepped out of line, right? And managed his image to perfection. Why does he want to stay in the NFL after 20 years? Because he planted a flag in the sand that said, hey, I've got this TB12 method and everything that goes along with it, and I want to play it on 45. Well, what if he walks away at 42? How does that affect that brand?
Right.
And what's the narrative that's going to have to change in order to, because here's the thing. Hey, if I would have said, we got TB12 and I played 20 years in the NFL and at a very high level and I won a Super Bowl at year 19, right? I could do that. But he went out and planted the flag in the sand. And when I was thinking about this, Dan, I was thinking about what you said earlier on in one of the earlier podcasts about you earlier in your career, you would walk into the middle of the room and make, what you consider to be an outlandish statement about your success and what it's going to be, because that became a driver for you, because now it was out there and you had to live it. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This might be that if he doesn't, I don't think it'll have a really adverse effect on his brand or anything like that, but
it will to himself.
It will to him. And that, is how do you satisfy that? Right. And look at it. 45 was an unrealistic goal. I mean, people were like, do I think he dropped off that much this year? No. Do I think he had 3 high school receivers that, were pumped out? It's the age old thing. It's like, he's the 1 year he was given a proper receiving core, they went undefeated in the regular season.
Yeah. Well, think about what he was supposed to have this year was a world-class tight end who decided to retire at the last minute, Antonio Brown, and Josh Gordon.
Right. And the guy that they traded away to the Jets.
Yeah.
And N'Keal Harry, who I think is going to be a good receiver in the league. You would have been able to bring him along and put him in positions to be successful rather than having to trot him out there the minute after he came back from an injury because he was the only person that could even remotely run down the field quickly.
Yeah. And don't forget, Aaron Hernandez too at one point.
Well, and it takes having Gronk and having the other receivers took the heat off Edelman and allowed him to do what he did well.
Yeah. It's when you take all that and Tom Brady was still able to get to the playoffs. I mean, they lost against a team that got hot and with the Titans. I mean, that's just
and his offensive line sucked.
Yeah. So he may still want to play at some point, but another team may not choose to bring him on.
I think if he plays again, he's going to come back to the Patriots, and if he doesn't, it's a giant FU, and he's going to live to regret it, right? I mean, he won't live to regret it. I think it won't be what he thinks it is.
I agree.
Not for today, but there's an amazing story about when other coaches knew, one in particular, Steve Mariucci, who was the coach of the 49ers the year he got drafted, knew that what's that?
Mooch.
Yeah, knew that he was going to be special, but knew that Brady was going to be special, but also knew that his career was about over as a coach because he drafted this guy Gino Carmazzo ahead of Brady. And he goes, he watched Brady take a shot in a preseason game, and just from some defensive guy get crushed and jump up like it was nothing. And in the same game, his quarterback took a good shot right between the shoulder blades and basically walked off the field. Now he's a goat farmer that does yoga. He goes, "Yep." He goes, "Yeah, good job picking, dude." He goes, "I'd still be the coach of the 49ers if I picked Tom Brady."
Well, this is what's overall funny. Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th round.
Yep, pick 199. He was like, "Oh, I want to make." He's the one thing that I think is he's never. I think internally he wants to make the other 31 teams pay. Right, because he's still that's a big driver.
I can appreciate, and I can,
he can quote the statistics of the other 5 quarterbacks that were taken ahead of him. That's Daniel-esque at its finest, right? I got that, and even the other day when Eli Manning was retiring, the tweet that he sent out was awesome. It was, congratulations on an unbelievable career. I just wish you hadn't won 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, right.
I mean, but that, again, that's being self-effacing. That's having an unbelievable sense of self and saying, hey, great job, and a reminder of who you beat. Right?
Right. And this is the funny part. One Manning brother is undefeated against Brady in the postseason.
Yeah.
The other one is not.
Yeah. And
the only reason why Peyton Manning doesn't have 7 Super Bowl rings is because of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick.
Right. Yeah. And the only reason that Brady doesn't have 8 is because of Eli Manning and Tom Coughlin.
Yeah.
Right. It's the beauty of team sports.
Yeah.
Right. And you're only going to do it once. You just got to be right on that day. But think about this.
Well, then.
You have an argument about Brady and everybody on who's better. This is the one that kills me. Montana won 4 Super Bowls. He didn't lose any, so he's better than the guy that won 6 but lost 3. Like, you've been to the Super Bowl effectively every other year in your career. What is that?
Tom Brady is the Cy Young of football.
Oh yeah,
most wins and the most losses.
Yeah,
But they named it an entire award after him. They could rename the MVP.
I think they're going to have the Brady Award. It'll be for the best looking quarterback who wins a game every year.
Yeah. All right, my friend.
Done?
Yeah, Jason?
Oh, man. Dude, we go off the rails so much. That is the rails now.
Yeah.
That is the rails.
We actually talk about technology. That is the exception.
Yeah. Hey.
All this has technology involved in it.
It does.
Sure. And leadership.
Life in tech.
We did talk about tech for like the first good hour.
No, as long as it fit into baseball.
Yeah. We got privacy in a little bit.
Yeah. But it's all technology in terms of, we've talked about all of the how we are going to alter ourselves in order to live till TK's age. I mean, he's perfected it. He's 105 years old.
Hey, I'll say this. StreamYard is killing it. This green screen, new feature they just added within the last week or two. Dude, this is good.
I know.
I got it up. Look.
I got to get one of those. We actually should, talking about professionalizing the podcast and getting more viewers, is all have the same common background.
Yeah.
Ooh. That's actually a good thought.
Yeah, because we can only
One a
upload
day.
one picture. Because I was playing around with it. There's only one picture we can upload, so we would be able to all upload that same graphic.
Oh, you
Yeah.
mean for the background?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we can come up with this lightning
like the
text
brick.
standard.
I like the brick background.
That's a default.
Yeah. They only had a couple. This the one that I've got is the other one they've got up.
Yeah. I didn't
It
like
looked
it,
pretty good.
but yeah. Well, and I was telling you guys to finish up. I have the intro video done for the clips we'll cut. I just need. I don't know why I won't open on. I'm on a different computer to do the show than I was on the computer I did to make it, but I like it. I got a Mrs. Pittman approval, so I'll show it to you guys, and if you like it, we can start cutting clips too.
Nice.
Sweet.
I'm in.
All right, my friends.
Next week.
Yep.
Next week.
Let's plant the flag. What do we think we want to talk about? What do we think we say we're going to want to talk about next week?
Man, we might need to talk about technology and epidemics, given China's state with the coronavirus.
Yeah.
Because
and we'll have to. We can give our last minute Super Bowl prediction.
Ooh.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we could do that. What I was going to say is, I read a study last night, a news report about a study. In Canada, a lab has been training an AI to predict epidemic outbreaks, and apparently, this AI predicted this exact scenario in December.
Wow. But I think, that we've been doing that. Well, I say we, I mean the pejorative, the royal we as a country. That if you think back in the 60s, what did they do? The government, in the dark federal government, they'd walk around with a briefcase and put some flu out in the city, and then post people at hospitals and figure out who showed up to try to see how that would happen. They're actually doing great work in earlier days. It was machine learning and data science to basically do it off of Facebook. Like if you hear there's they start watching that, and then you start to say, hey, here's where this stuff happens. Well, now as we get better with the math of AI, you can become very predictive about that, right?
Yeah.
For good or bad, right? Are you going to use your powers for good or evil, right? But that stuff amazes me. What's that?
Not even a question.
I know. Well, we know what Dan. We need Dan's background to be the fire pit of hell, and he's going to have a little pitchfork when he's holding on to it. But yeah, now I'm all in on that.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
All
There's
right.
some really good technology and science in there.
Yeah. Or whatever.
All right, everybody.
Or whatever Dan throws us off the rails on when he introduces himself.
We just can't let him talk second. You got to go second, TK.
It won't matter. Unlike Mike,
Yeah.
you can't stop me. You can only.
You're placing much too much hope in the fact that I can keep him from doing that.
He's been trying. TK's been trying for 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost 6.
Yeah.
Oh my God. 2014 is right.
That's
Yeah.
right.
But it's all good.
June 2014. All right, my friends.
All right, have a good Sunday.
Peace.
Have a great week. I'll talk to you later. Bye.